Hey guys, how's it going? It's Al. Week 7 on DraftKings. We're going to talk about a first look lineup for this weekend in NFL DFS. Man, week 7 is already here. We've had it kind of surrounded the last couple of weeks. We're hoping that we can have a breakthrough. I'm hoping to take down a big GPP this week, and we're going to talk about the strategies that I like to use to try and make sure that I'm getting, when I'm on it, that I'm getting more of my lineups into the top 1%, 5%, 10% to give myself a better chance at getting lucky. We've got another short slate. 10 games on this weekend slate because of bye weeks and the obvious island games on Thursday, Sunday, and Monday. We have some really attractive game situations that are brewing. I like what I see. I'm very excited about it. So thank you guys for being here once again. Drop a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, ring the notifications bell, leave me a reply down below, and if you got time, click that share button and give it to one friend. Bring one person who has not seen the channel to this channel, whether it's through your Facebook, through Twitter, through wherever. The share button is a big deal. So thank you guys very much. Let's take a look at week 7. Let's go.
He's a legend.
Appreciate all the effort in the listener league. We talked about all of the winners, the top 10 finishers from last week's 3,500 contestant listener league on the recap video. That's on the second channel, Al Smizzle Games on YouTube. Go check that out, or just search on YouTube for DraftKings Week 6 recap. You'll find it. Drop a subscribe on that channel as well. We go over everything. And the listener league is going to be back for this week. Type smizzle.tv/league, and that will take you right there. See if we can get in and fill that one early. So we're going to start at quarterback because we're going to double stack and we're going to bring it back. We got 10 games on the slate. We have a few that look pretty low scoring, like Jets and Patriots has a total of like 42.5, and the Patriots are favored by 6. The Giants and Panthers game does look like it might play slow, but very consolidated offenses here with CMC out, with literally every wide receiver questionable on the Giants. Like, we have a very funneled group of players where the ball is going to go to. We also have some high scoring games in this situation, and a lot of games that are late have high totals. Chicago Tampa Bay has a good total. This total in this game is 48. Buccaneers are favored by 13 freaking points. You have Houston, Arizona, 47 total. Cardinals favored by 17 points. We have the Lions and the Rams, 50 total. Rams favored by 15.5. So team totals for Tampa Bay and Arizona and the Rams are like at or above 30 expected points. And I think that their stacks might be underplayed. We'll get to that in just a second. Mahomes has thrown a lot of interceptions. Mahomes has also not had a game this year where he's scored less than 21.98 DraftKings points. The way that most people are getting to Patrick Mahomes or Patrick Mahomes players is by stacking the opposite side and bringing them back, or finding a cheaper quarterback stack and then going with like a Tyreek Hill at 86 or a Travis Kelce at 76 to allow themselves access, because going with those 3 players totals up to an awful lot. And it's unlikely that a quarterback runs away from the field, right? It just is. So, like, you don't have to have Patrick Mahomes to win tournaments in any week this season. You could have won tournaments with him in week 1, but you could have won tournaments with him in week 1 because he ran an extra one in. In all the other weeks where he does not have a rushing touchdown, even in a 5 touchdown outburst against Philadelphia, it was more likely that you had a different quarterback if you took down a tournament in week 4, but you had the pass catchers on the other side. So it wasn't something that was necessary to have him to win the tournament. Paying up for quarterbacks, definitely out of vogue. Paying in that middle range is. We used to be able to pay like under 6K to get quarterbacks on DraftKings, but they've kind of priced them up. And now the meatiest range is like 6K to 7K. You find a lot of guys that have multiple touchdown upside. We have not seen Kyler run the ball very efficiently for 2 straight weeks. Rumors of an injured shoulder harken me back to the second half of last season, where he stopped running and was way less efficient throwing the ball. He did throw for 4 touchdowns against Cleveland's very vaunted defense, but he completed 66.7% of passes as opposed to like the 80 to 75 to 80% that he was completing when he was healthy in weeks 1 through 4. I'm not saying that we have to avoid Kyler. I'm saying that I'm going to have to dig a little bit more before I want to double stack paying 8,500, especially with as much as Kyler is spreading the ball around and as little as he's running the football on top of that. Tom Brady double stacks. Brady's expensive, but his pass catchers aren't. We definitely have the opportunity for big time upside. 5 touchdowns in 2 games, but then none in 2 or less in the 3 others. Sorry, 4 touchdowns or more in 3 games, 2 or less in 3 others. It's kind of a boomer bust environment for him. They do have one of the greatest offenses in the league, but they do give the ball an awful lot to Leonard Fournette. And there's a lot of ways that touchdowns can get vultured or games can get out of hand. But I am not going to be fading Buccaneers stacks this week out of the possibility that they're going to get way too far ahead. And then all of a sudden, the narrative is, they're going to pull Tom Brady. They're not going to play him, right? They're going to score all these points. They're going to score 40 points. They're going to rest Tom Brady. They're going to pull the starters in the second half. If that happens, they've hung a 40 or a 50 burger on Chicago. And it's likely that Tom Brady probably had 3 or more touchdown passes. So Brady stacks might come in at a little bit lower number this week. Should not be avoiding that. It's interesting to see Lamar Jackson hold at the same $7,400 price point this week going against Cincinnati in what looks to be a pace up situation coming off of 2 30-point outbursts by the Ravens. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that 3 different running backs are not going to score rushing touchdowns, and he's not going to have one of his pass catchers fall on the one and another one drop a short touchdown pass here moving forward. So 7,400, he is also in the realm for me this week. A couple of cheap options. It ain't going to be sexy. And we do have to see who's going to be coming back. Is he going to have Devontae? We know that Fuller's probably not going to be there. Jalen Waddle's looked really good. Gesicki has actually done exceptionally well recently. And Tua is really a cheap way to get you access to that for a guy that's going to have to throw the ball a lot to keep pace with Atlanta while playing at home. And they have absolutely no running game, something they may completely just be avoiding at this point, and they're going to have to throw the ball to be effective, which sucks from a real life perspective. But for fantasy, it's not all that bad. Tannehill, the other side of that Kansas City stack that I was talking about. It's going to be interesting to see if Tennessee at home can control the ball with Derrick Henry as they want to do. But if Kansas City is efficient, and they have still been one of the most efficient teams in the league in terms of scoring points, they've just turned the ball over a lot more this year, some of them off of tip passes. And if that evaporates and they score a couple of touchdowns, let's say they have 17 points halfway through the first quarter, or not the first quarter, but the first half of this football game in Tennessee, Tannehill's going to have to throw it 40 plus times, and they're going to have to abandon the run at least a little bit and play up in pace against Kansas City. So Tannehill giving you a $2,100 discount against Patrick Mahomes in a carnival-like environment in the game that has the highest total on the slate, 56 points, and the Chiefs only favored by 4.5 there. Burrow against Baltimore. I wonder how many people are going to be on this stack or double stack, seeing how Baltimore treated the Los Angeles Chargers last week. Jalen Hurts continues to score over 20 points a game, averaging 26 a game. It's the Parkman meme or Pinkman meme. It's the Jesse Pinkman meme where how does he keep getting away with it? He looks like the worst quarterback in the world, and he runs for 2 in the second half and piles up all these garbage time points and just gets his owners 20 to 30 DraftKings points every single game. It just keeps happening because running quarterbacks are kind of a cheat code, and we know that they are. He can't keep getting away with it, but he does. 2 places that I do want to attack this week. Aaron Rodgers against Washington. You know where to stack it. It's going to be pricey. It's going to be through Devontae, but I kind of want to go with Matthew Stafford. One, cover boy was Kupp. So I'm kind of locking myself into either playing him as a secondary play or stacking him with Stafford. Stafford has been incredible and challenging deep downfield, all the weapons that you want. And I think that there's possibly a bit of leverage in this situation that I'm going to talk about here really quickly. Henderson is only 6,600 again, and that's entirely stupid. So like, he's your cash game running back this week. Up against Detroit, at home, favored by 15.5, involved in the passing game, playing 90% of the running back snaps before they get pulled or when he gets injured. He's basically averaging 3x. And the times that he didn't, he left games early because of injury. He's consistently above 15 points. Like, the touchdown expectancy in this game, Detroit bottom 3, bottom 5 in the league in like every single running back metric. The matchup is fantastic. So like, that makes me just want to play the passing game in tournaments if everybody's going to be on him. Now look, I know I'm going to get asked this. What if I do this? What if I play, Al, is it against the rules for me to play Henderson, Stafford, and Kupp in the same lineup? And like, no, but there is a little pull against yourself here because every touchdown that Henderson scores on the ground is a touchdown that takes away from Stafford throwing the ball. But he did catch a touchdown this week. The problem is when they get in close inside the 10-yard line, the Rams are as run-heavy a team as anybody else, even though in most other game neutral situations, they are passing the ball early. Now, with a team total of an implied team total of 32.5, it's extremely likely that Henderson can score a touchdown, Kupp can score a touchdown. Kupp has seen double-digit targets in every single game this year, getting a massive target share. He can get there and Henderson can get there based on basically Henderson's price. So I'm not going to rule it out, but realize that you are kind of spitting into the wind a little bit, because if Henderson catches a ceiling game, right? So let's define what a Henderson ceiling game is in this spot. A Henderson ceiling game is probably 35 DraftKings points. Let's say he busts a 60-yarder. Let's say he runs for 100 yards on the ground, something he has not done so far this season. Let's say he runs 2 touchdowns in and catches 1. 3 touchdowns, 100-yard bonus, 4 or 5 catches, and that's 3 touchdowns right there. Let's say the defense scores 1 or special team scores 1. They get up 35 or 40 points. Stafford maybe has 2 touchdowns. Neither of them are to Kupp. And then they just pack it in. They don't have to run the ball, or they don't have to throw the ball in the second half. If he ceilings, you're not going to get a ceiling out of Stafford and Kupp. So you're betting against yourself when you do that. So now we're going to look at who else we can play from this game. If we're going to go against what I think is going to be one of the heaviest played running backs on the slate, and for very good reason, in Henderson, we have to find a receiver to go with. So Bobby Trees, 3 games this year, he's had 4 games this year, he's had 6 or less targets. That's pretty rough. So a guy who did not have that output pretty much at all last season now has that as kind of an expected output. He did sneak his way into the end zone this week, and that kind of helped salvage things a little bit, but the price keeps going up. His price right now should sit somewhere in this 5,300 to 5,900 range, and he's above that at 6,400. I'd much rather take the shot on somebody like Van Jefferson in a tournament, paying off with a 5 or a 6 target game, maybe taking one of those 40 yards to the house. He's involved enough. Djax is a little bit too thin for me, only getting 1 to 3 targets a game, not really out there running a ton of routes. Somebody like Higbee at 4,500, I'd much rather go with this for the touchdown upside at tight end, with a 15-point game from him being very meaningful and possible. He did have, with his 5 targets, 1 that was inside the 5 where he got tackled on the 1 or 2 yard line, and that turned into a Henderson touchdown last week. But I'm going to shoot for the moon here and go with Van Jefferson to give me a little bit of, let's say, upside for low volume. As I said last week, who the hell knows which wide receiver is going to get targeted? Cephas at least had 7 targets, but all of those came in the fourth quarter when they were chasing. It's one guy. It's DeAndre Swift. And this is going to take us off of percentage, or theoretically off of at least some percentage, because people are not going to play 2 running backs from the same game. People do not like to play running backs from teams that are losing, or at least massive underdogs on the road. And he's not somebody who gets a ton of volume. And he's been in that garbage time role himself, scoring rushing touchdowns late in games, the last two. They just have to get DeAndre Swift more involved for all 4 quarters and not wait until like the 4th quarter when you're down 25 points to just kind of funnel him targets. He is the most consistent pass catcher they have. He is their biggest upside player in terms of a big splash play. DeAndre Swift at 6K as a bring back here works for me. I got to find another running back. He's good. Tales of his demise, of Uncle Lenny's demise, were greatly exaggerated, coming off of a 2-touchdown, 6-target performance, following up after a 5-target, 1-touchdown performance against Miami. 20 carries against New England, 5 targets in that game. Volume on every level. Volume on the running game, volume inside the 5, volume in the passing game, home and favored, $5 running back, Leonard Fournette. The only problem here, I don't like always getting involved as the price continues to hike. 4,900, 5,200, 5,800, and now 6,400 in week 7. When that price is going up, that means that the performance has done very well along with it, which means that there's going to be a higher percentage of players on him. By the weekend, he may be somebody that I kind of want to take a look at what his percentage is going to be. We do get a late game hammer here. We got a whole lot to sweat in the late games, so I kind of do like that. I am going to look at some of the early game players as maybe some one-offs. Let me just plug in a defense here that we can just play around with. Whatever, I don't care. I'm not going to do that because somebody's going to yell at me. They're fine. Somebody's going to yell, you played a defense. It's against your running back. That's really bad form. You shouldn't do that, streamer. Leave me alone. We're going to look for some guys that can make this work. So DraftKings this season has been really friendly to us. The high dollar running backs, Devontae Adams is great. Tyreek Hill is great. Cooper Kupp, the number 1 wide receiver in fantasy right now. DeAndre Hopkins seeing a lot of volume go away. Like those 12 to 15 target games consistently may be off the chart for DeAndre because that's just not how they run this offense. And they're going to spread around now that they have a lot of weapons at their disposal in Arizona. He'll be contrarian once again this week, even though that game is against Houston. DJ Moore getting a whole lot of volume, but his price has come up as well from the mid 6s and 5K up into the 7,000 range, getting a whole boatload of targets. And has a solid floor, but has to find his way into the end zone to pay this off. More of a floor ceiling play, really. McLaurin getting injured, but right down in here from like 6,500 to 5,000. Right? Mike Evans, love him in Brady stacks. Probably not going to play him as a one-off. Jamar Chase didn't get into the end zone this week, guys. Remember we talked about this? Like, well, why would you say he's going to stop scoring touchdowns? He's scored touchdowns in like 5 times in 5 games. And in all but 1, because touchdowns are really highly variant, guys. What I try to target in this range is players that I think have a realistic expectation of between 8 and 12 targets. And DraftKings has been very friendly to us in giving us a lot of players in this range that do project to do that. Players like Brandon Cooks. Come on, wheel. Get me there. Come on. Put it. Show me the picture. I hate you, wheel. The wheel sucks. Finally, Brandon Cooks, as I was saying, 13 targets, 11 targets, 14 targets, 7 targets, 7 targets. The only game where he did not get there was New England. We're going to consider them the Russian judge. He is one of the leaders in the league in terms of air yards. So not just these little dink and dunk targets. He's actually getting targeted 12, 13, 14, 15 yards downfield. And the quarterback play does not seem to hinder his floor. What hinders his upside is the offense's inability to score touchdowns, except for the 1 week where they took him off the table and let everybody else score touchdowns. So with the amount of volume and downfield plays that Brandon Cooks is getting, he's somebody that I think you should be considering this week. And he's a perfect play for bringbacks if you're playing Arizona stacks in that spot. I'm going to plug him in. Another player, I'm going to put him in the late spot. So let's put Cooks in the flex because I got another wide receiver here that I think is going to get a lot of targets. I said looking at guys in this 5,000 and plus range is where we can find a lot of players who are getting a good amount of looks, right? Corey Davis, good amount of looks. 7 targets, 10 targets each of the last 3 weeks. Very inconsistent offense. Don't really feel like I can target him. Kadarius Toney, whole lot of targets the last 3 weeks. Left this game early with an ankle. Monitor his situation as it moves forward this week, because the absolute mash unit that is the Giants we'll get to in a minute. Jacoby Myers can't find his way into the end zone, getting peppered with targets and catches everything. I love this range, not just for cash games, but for tournaments too. Devonta Smith, 4 targets against Tampa Bay. I'm going to write this game off because in all the games before that, 9, 10, 6, and 7, the 4 games before that, and now facing off against Las Vegas, I think this is another possible blast-off spot for him. Jalen Waddle, 5,600. 13 targets, 6 targets against Tampa Bay. Jalen Waddle has been a monster. And like going very quietly. I don't know how they turned this beast of an athlete and tremendous route runner into like Miami Dolphins Jarvis Landry, but they've done it, and he's been one of the more consistent players on the year in terms of his routes run and targetry, and we have yet to see him really bust out for a big game, right? He has not really had a pass aside from the week 1 where he had the 36-yarder, has not had many plays over 20 yards. Maybe that's just based on the offense that they run, but with everybody out, tons of targets headed his way. And as I said with the Giants, tons of targets headed Sterling Shepard's way. In the 3 full games that Shepard has played, week 6, 2, and 1, 14 targets, 10 targets, 9 targets. He's only 5,600. 5,000 to 6,500 has been a treasure trove of cash game wide receivers on DraftKings all season long. It does not look like that's going to change in week 7. Sterling Shepard, a fine one-off spot for me here with high floor, high ceiling possibility. High floor because of the yards and targets, high ceiling based on the fact that Carolina has not been the defense that we kind of thought they were, or people thought they were through the first 3 weeks when they were stuffing everybody. They hadn't really played great offenses yet. I'm not saying the Giants are a great offense. I'm saying the Carolina is more susceptible than people want to give them credit for being. And that's going to lead us to needing a secondary stack in this spot. And while Zach Ertz was out last week, he's not going to be out this week and playing tight end in a role that was vacated by Max Williams when his knee injury hit. And now the more talented, albeit older, Zach Ertz fills that spot. Everybody thought that AJ Green was dust. This offense is proving that he wasn't. Everybody thought that Zach Ertz was dust. And now he's going into a very potent, very high-powered offense that gives volume to the tight end. If he gets between 5 and 8 targets, 3,900 is entirely too cheap, and he correlates well with Brandon Cooks coming back. So our tournament lineup is a Stafford double stack with Kupp and Van Jefferson Jr. We have DeAndre Swift coming back from there. 5-box running back Leonard Fournette. 10 target expectation for Sterling Shepard. Zach Ertz to Brandon Cooks. Pick a defense that you like. You got 3,100 and down for that. You can upgrade whatever you want. If you don't like this lineup, play a different one. Play whoever it is that you want, but focus more on the process of lineup building to try and outpace your opponents, whether it's single entry small field or you're 150ing the mini max tournaments. Thank you guys for watching. Look out for another video right there.
He's a legend.